What's up, everyone? Welcome to Power Play with CJ. Today we're going to focus in on Jeremy Roenick and why JR, in my estimation, is a future Hall of Famer. A little background on JR. Obviously, one of the most personable players in the history of the league. Definitely, personality-wise, up there with the best. This is one-liners, and one-timers. That was it's like Brett Hull in that regard. You never knew, you never didn't know what he was thinking because he let you know. I think that's a great aspect that not too many players have. The courage to speak up. I mean, some of his quotes, a lot of his quotes got him in trouble. But the majority of them were great entertainment and helped connect the everyday fan to the NHL player. He was a guy you could identify with. He played hard, was actually the only player ever to lead his team in goals, assists, points, and penalty minutes twice. And that's a testament how scrappy he was and how hard he played every shift. When he was with the Coyotes in 2000-2001, he put those statistics up. But a little more background on Mr. Roenick. Until last year, when Jordan Schrader broke it, he was the all-time leading scorer for the U.S. at the World Juniors. He did that in 2 tournaments, which is outstanding, obviously. And in '89, formed a very, very great line of himself, Mike Modano, and John LeClair. And that's one of the greatest lines this country ever sent over there. I think in terms of production, I think Colin Wilson, James Van Riemsdyk, and Jordan Schrader might have been on par with that a couple years ago, but neither one of those teams won a medal, so it kind of defeats the purpose of arguing who was better. But the '89 year was up and down between the Hull Olympique of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League and the Blackhawks, where he was the 8th overall pick in the '88 draft. Which was, by the way, in my estimation, one of the best drafts, I'd say, all time. That, the 2003 draft. The '88 draft, like I said, gave us JR, Modano, Monty, 3 of the greatest American players of all time, Rod Brindamore, Teemu Selanne, Rob Blake, Alex McGillney. Think about that for a second. Think about all that productivity, in one draft, and that's outstanding. But back to JR. He was scored 50 goals twice for the Blackhawks in the early '90s when they were in their heyday. Was on the team that lost in the finals to Lemieux and the Penguins in '92. Went down 4 straight. That was tough one to take, but it's the nature of the beast. Got traded to Phoenix and helped establish the Coyotes as a legitimate contender every year he was out there. They never got past the first round, but they were always enjoyable to watch with himself and fellow Masshole Keith Tkachuk, another one of the great American players of all time. A little thing in the '90s that you had him, Amonte, Tkachuk, Tommy Poti got up at the end of that decade. So many great Massachusetts players, Billy Guerin. Those guys were like rock stars. They were winning medals at the Olympics. JL was on the 2002 silver medal winning team in Salt Lake City. They won the World Cup of Hockey. Roenick wasn't on that team, but guys like that they were the core nucleus that's put in place from the 1980s. From the 1980 Olympic team winning gold. And JR wrote the introduction to the new book, Star Spangled Hockey. It was outstanding. I recommend everyone go and get it. It's that good of a read. That the '80 team, Mike Eruzione scoring that goal to beat the Russians was what inspired him to be a pro hockey player. And the contributions of the team in 1980 cannot be overlooked. Guys like him and Modano getting established at the end of that decade. Because of what they saw and because the U.S. was recognized as a legitimate hockey power, which never before had been thought possible, even though they did win the gold at Squaw Valley in '60. But Roenick was key to that generation of American superstars. That the 2002 Olympics, the World Cup of Hockey. He was hurt in '04 because of the major hit he sustained in the '04 season with Philly when they went to the conference finals, lost to Tampa, who obviously went on to win the Cup that year. Him and Amonte got reunited that year. That was another one of my favorite Jeremy Roenick moments, was him singing "Reunited and it feels so good." He was a quality entertainer. A couple TV roles here and there. When he was dancing at the MGM Grand when he was playing an exhibition game for the Kings against Colorado was pretty interesting. I love that. You need that in the game. The closest thing the league has now is Paul Bissonnette for the Coyotes. Biz nasty in terms of personality and what he offers on social networking and all that other stuff. But Paul Bissonnette's a borderline NHL player. Jeremy Roenick was one of the best players in the NHL for a number of years, and the face of the franchise for the Blackhawks, which are an original 6 franchise, one of the best franchises in the NHL, perennially. Obviously, they went through a downtrodden period, but they're obviously one of the elite teams in the NHL over the course of its history. Statistically, like I said, JR 500 goals, one of only 4 Americans to do that, and the third of the 4 behind Mike Modano and Joey Mullen, or Mullen, then Modano, then JR, and then obviously Keith Tkachuk did it a couple years later. He got his 500th goal, like I said, with the Shacks, and I think 500 should get you in. It should be like 500 home runs in baseball, 3,000 hits in baseball, 500 goals. You're Hall of Famer. That means another knock on him was he never cup, and he wore a cup. He didn't win the Stanley Cup, I should say. It sounded a lot worse than I thought it would, but no individual hardware and no Stanley Cup. But you look at his numbers, and they're on par with anyone. I mean, he was playing in an era when you had Gretzky and Lemieux win the scoring title every year. Then Lindros and Messier, guys like that. He was a great player, and the Cup thing. He came close in '90 with the Hawks, and again with the conference finals in '08 with the Sharks, and 2 long playoff, and like I said, '04 with the Flyers. So 3 pretty long playoff runs and nothing to show for it. I don't think that's his fault. I think they ran into a team of destiny in '92. You weren't beating Lemieux and the boys. '04, that Flyers team was pretty banged up by the time they got there. He was banged up. Keith Primo was, on his 25th concussion by that point. And then, San Jose lost in the second round. They went 6 games with Dallas, who went on to the conference finals. I misspoke. That Dallas team was pretty good. He got to lose to Modano, and then last year in the league, lost in the first round to Anaheim, and one of those typical San Jose choke jobs in the first round. But you can't knock him for that. And like I said, his contributions to the game go beyond what he did on the ice. His personality, he put a human face with the game. I wonder what Patrick was in Game 4. He's probably getting his jock out of the rafters. And, Roy's great retort to that. I can't hear what Jeremy said because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings clogging my ears. And, and what he's doing as an analyst is great. When he called out Milbury in the Olympics last year for using the phrase Euro trash, when he was crying when Chicago won the Cup, you could tell he was genuinely enjoying what they were experiencing because he didn't get to experience that. And, it wasn't out of jealousy at all. It was, he was proud to have proudly won the Chicago Blackhawks uniform for a number of years and gave that team his blood, sweat, and tears. And to see them finally win the Cup for the first time in, 49, 50 years is, must have been a great experience for him. But at the end of the day, he's got to be in the Hall of Fame for what he did to USA Hockey and the game of hockey as a whole. I think the game is better because Jeremy Roenick played it. You can argue with me nonstop about it, but I won't back down. A little Tom Petty action there. JR belongs in the Hall of Fame, and I don't know if he's going to get in next year because you got Sakic and Shanny and a couple other guys like that. I mean, Joe Sakic was one of the greatest players of all time. I'm sorry. Joe Sakic's a top 10 player ever to play the game. The way he did it with style and grace and all that stuff, but JR belongs there, and I hope that the hockey writers feel fit to put him in. That's it for the Power Play of CJ on Jeremy Roenick. Let me know what you think, and stay tuned for more episodes.